Okay, traders, so we're going to roll on to the 4-hour trend trader strategy on MT4 now. You can do a little bit of training. We're going to apply the new ELD to the charts. You should have received an ELD as an email. Save that to one of your folders, and you're going to want to copy the ELD into our open data folder. So you're going to want to update that. So go to MQL4, go to experts, and then you're going to want to copy that into here. I've already done that. So that is our 4-hour trend trader version 3. So that's what you should have. You will have a version 2 in there. So we want to kind of get rid of that file. So we'll take that out, and it would probably be on the charts. So if it is your old 4-hour trend trader is on the charts, just simply remove that. So go to expert advisors and remove it, then add, and I'll just do it as a walkthrough here. So if I remove that at the moment, I'll add the version 3 in. So let's do that now. There's version 3. We want to add it to the charts. Remembering that we're tracking this in demo mode. This is version 3, so there's potentially going to be 2 or 3 more versions of this strategy, because we're just constantly, or not constantly, but we're adding some new inputs to it. And one of the big ones is going to be the strength, trend strength radar, which is really going to look at currency strength, so strength versus weakness, and take trades only on confirmations of a divergence in the currencies. So as I mentioned before, you want to be tracking this in demo mode. So I'm going to talk a little bit later on in the video on managing risk on the platform, and when we're doing these multiple versions of a strategy and we're kind of getting the best of the best strategy inputs, you're always going to be wanting to track that in demo mode and be comfortable with it. Make sure it's trading as it should do, and trading across multiple pairs. Make sure your data is coming through well, and we'll talk a little bit more about the risk profile of that as we push on in the video. But let's have a look here. We're going to have a quick look at this system. So we've added the trend color to our charts, and if we have a look at our indicators there, you'll see that we've got 2 indicators, the VR Donchian and the trend color. Both of those have been added to the charts. The only change we make is we want to make sure the Donchian is running at 20, which we've set up, so that's okay. We go okay. No other change to the strategy. Now when you do add this to your charts, you're going to find that you probably want to add the ELD as well. So sorry, my apologies. You want to add in the set file. So to do that, you're going to want to have a look at, so you're going to go view, and you want to have your strategy tester open. So if you go view strategy tester, that opens up your strategy tester. Then you'll have the ability to select the EA. So in this instance, we want the 4-hour trend trader version 3. The currency we're going to select is the Euro USD, because that's a set file I sent out. Now the set file is basically the best settings that we have on a particular currency pair so far. So all I've done is basically just gone through and done some optimization on some very basic settings. So I'm going to show you those in a second. Let's load the set file up first. So if we go hit expert properties and we say load, we go to our desktop, which is where I've got it, GMT, and there's the 4-hour strategy, and there's my set files. Now I've set out a new Euro USD new settings, so that's our new settings. But here's our new settings version 3, so we'll get rid of that one there, and we'll get rid of any other Euro USD. We'll get rid of that as well, and we'll keep our version 3, and we'll go open, and we'll go OK. So there's version 3 of our strategy. So if we run now if we run the actual strategy report on that, we should get some trades popping up on the on our chart, which we do, or not on our chart, but on our strategy tester, which we do. And we're waiting for that report to so I'll just pause the video here, and we'll wait for that to run through. Alright traders, so we've run our strategy test and this was on very basic settings. So if we jump in, have a look at our report, it's delivered $1,000 over 12 months. It's got a profit factor of 1.44. As I said, very basic settings that I sent out. The largest profitable trade was $90, average was 74. Our largest loser was 33, and the average was 20. So that's perfect as far as reward to risk, and that's what you're wanting out of a trending system, aren't you? You're going to want a good reward to risk there. So let's have a look at the basic settings here that we've got on this strategy. So this thing is running at the Donchian period is 20, so that's our automatic default setting. We want to have that on because that matches our setting on our indicator. Number of max trades there. We always want to have that, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later on, but every EA we want to have our max trades risk set at with this one particularly 2, because we don't have any more than 2 trades in a day. It's a 4-hour strategy, so ideally that's our max trade there. 50 max loss per day is 50. Just have a look at that though, because it needs to line up with your max stop loss. So if your stop loss is $200 or $20, then because this is a mini account, then you're going to want to add that as 400, aren't you? So we'll just put that in there. So that's 2 losing trades, and we'll set that. Now we've got this as enter by trend color change. So if there's a change in the trend color, we're basically going to get into this trade. So if we have a change in our trend color from red to green, or green back to orange or tomato, and then we're going to get into this trade. So that's probably going to take too many trades. So what we want to do is make sure we've got additional filters in there, don't we? So this is running, as I said before, on a 4-hour candle or chart, but I want to see that I'm not just getting on the trend color. I want to have possibly the lower Donchian confirming, or the upper Donchian, or both Donchians confirming, or as well as possibly a break of the midline. So that's our midline there. So let's go back into the strategy here. What we can do is we can select the trend color change. That's okay to true. We can enter by price break of the midline. So at the moment that's false. Typically what you'll find is when the trend color changes, it does normally break the trend line, but not every time. So we've got that at false. But what we do have here is we have enter by midline break, trend color change, which matches our first input there, and then we also have one Donchian confirming. So what that means is if I'm going long on this system, I'm going to want to have a trend color change, and I need to have one of my Donchian, my upper or lower, confirmed to be blue for a long setup and red for a short. So let's have a look at a long setup. A long setup here would be, that would be our long setup. We've got a trend color change, our blue Donchian, and we've crossed above the midline. So that's our long setup. On the short side, we have a trend color change, but we don't have the Donchian lining up. Okay, traders, we're going to have a look at a few more of these setups. So basically, at the moment, we have, if we go to the Expert Advisor, the strategy set up with a enter by trend color, which is true, and trend color change. And then we also have the enter by midline break, trend color change, and one Donchian confirmed. So at the moment the strategy is set up so that if you change from a tomato or red to green, that strategy, actually all of the inputs or all of the components have to line up, so they don't there. So we've traded above the midline, but our Donchian's red and not blue, so it needs to line up. Now we are going to add an input to this strategy so that it will take the trade once all the parameters line up, but at the moment it doesn't do that. So it's very simple. Basically, once your once your color changes, which does here, and you've got a close below the midline, and the color has changed from green to tomato or red, then your outer Donchian lines up as well, then that's a takeable trade there. So that's a short trade. Now we go to the long setup, and you can see here that the first trade setup there is a green candle from a tomato, but we're still on a red. We've still got a red Donchian, so that actually doesn't confirm the trade. So it's only when we get a change from here green to red back to green that we can take this trade, because we're above the midline, we have the green candle, and we have the Donchian confirmation. Now there is a setting within the strategy to only take the trade if you touch the upper Donchian or the outer Donchian. So the settings for that trade are enter midline break, trend color change, one Donchian confirmed. So the one Donchian is obviously a trade on the long side, confirms that we've got the trade set up and we're good to take the trade. So our settings for that part of the strategy are enter by midline break. We need a trend color change and one Donchian to confirm. So if you're long, it's going to be the blue, obviously from red to blue. If you're short, it's going to be from blue to red. So again, if we here see that we've got a trend color change, we have a close below the midline, and our Donchian confirms, that would get us into a short trade. That's obviously a loser there. But you can see how this works. So on this scenario here, if we get a long, which we do, that long doesn't trigger because we've got a trend color change. Our Donchian confirms, but our midline is still red. But if we close above the midline and we don't have the requirement for the midline color change, then we could take that trade, couldn't we? So you can really customize the EA to suit how you want to take the trade. So it's just a matter of playing with the strategy and working out how you're going to take the trades and what you specifically want to see as your entry point. So what I suggest you do in demo mode is go through and start really testing this strategy and run some optimizations. Make sure that you try some of these different variations to the trade entry to find out what's going to work best for you, because the set file you were given is basically just a basic file, a basic settings file. So there's plenty of work to be done on getting better results on these strategies. So but we're going to do a little bit more work on that as well. So we'll keep you updated on how we go with our set files. But again, as I said before, go through and make sure you go through and test the strategy, do some optimizations, and let us know how you go. Okay, traders, so what I want to talk about now, this is the last part of our presentation for today, is just managing risk. And this does pertain to the 4-hour strategy, 4-hour trend trader strategy, but it could be any EA you're trading, or any TradeStation strategy, or any TradeView strategy, anything that you're running in automation, any algo. You really want to be making sure that you're managing risk correctly. And I guess that today's a good time to be talking about that, because as we're starting to release more and more of these systems for testing, and we've been doing this for a long time now, it's just a good reminder to traders who are possibly new to the group, that you need to be managing risk on your platform and on your strategy, because ultimately, at the end of the day, you're responsible for your own account. So you need to make sure that you've got appropriate risk management on that account. So one of the things we did a couple of years ago, Mike did a great presentation, which is in the members area. I think it was 2015-16 on risk management and trading and automation. That was more for TradeStation, but it had some really good advice in relation to managing risk and using a server platform and things you can do to improve your risk management. So you probably want to have a look at that video, but barring that, let's go through and have a look at some of the things, the basic things we can do just to make sure that we're managing risk well on our strategies. So one of the things that we want you to do is basically you need to monitor your EA when it's running. So just because you've got an EA, a strategy, or an automated strategy on TradeStation or MT4, it doesn't matter what platform, you still need to monitor it. So some physical monitoring or some type of monitoring of the system to make sure it's trading within its parameters, so that if there's any move away from what its standard trading protocol is, then you're aware of that or you're alerted to that. So one of the things you can do is you can set up an email notification alert, an alarm, when a trade is taken, and that links to your phone, can send an alarm off your platform, and that just tells you that there's trade. So if you've got that alarm set up and you're hearing ding, 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 or you're hearing a couple of dings an hour, and you know that your system, or a couple of alarms go off every hour, you know your system only trades once a day or a couple of times a day, you'll start to register that there's an issue and you can address that straight away. The other thing is you could have your broker set up a max risk value in your account that shuts down any trade execution if your max risk is hit. And most brokers provide this. You've just got to make sure you've got a broker that's good enough to do that. And if you haven't, you probably want to find one. This can be as low as 2%, it can be as high as whatever risk you're comfortable with, but ultimately that's another way of managing risk on the platform. We also have added in all of our strategies, and in this one as well, a feature that automatically shuts down the EA if it has a number of losing trades. So if it has a certain number of losing trades per day, or it hits a risk value per day, then that will be basically added to that'll basically shut the EA down and it won't be able to trade. So I've mentioned there you should set it as a default. I definitely would, and we do. So with any of the developed EAs that we have, you definitely need to make sure that you've got that max risk per day and the max dollar risk. So you ideally want to have both of those. You want to have two safeguards. You want to have the email alert, and you also want to have the broker max risk added to your platform as well. So there's three. There is also the ability to have, say, if you're running your EA on a VPN, you can basically have whoever's managing the server to set up. There are some companies that will provide a risk management service within the server itself. So there's that opportunity as well. As I mentioned before, these features of the max number of trades, trader can select the max number of allowable trades before the EA becomes inactive, so that's losing trades, and the max risk per day is added to the EA as a feature. So they're just standard things that are typically in our EAs. They'll be in all the EAs that all the strategies that we produce moving forward. So I would definitely make sure that they're set as your default. So that was just a bit of a summary of what we want to do in relation to managing risk, making sure that obviously the key ones, any strategy that you use, you want to run that in demo, between 2, 3, 5 weeks in demo to make sure it's taking the trades correctly, that there's no bugs, and then once you're happy and comfortable with that and you've got your risk management in place, then you could potentially go live with the strategy if it's performing well. So that is just a recap of the risk management that we would recommend. If you've got any questions, please let me know. Happy to answer those. You can contact Shane at gmtfutures.com. Otherwise, have a fantastic day and we'll catch you on the next live session. Cheers.